Thank you for taking the time to do this. First things first, it is a pleasure on my end. How's your day going so far?
It's going well. How's your day going, Carl?
It's going okay. It's going okay. Bit of a still suffering a bit of
Rock
a
and
hangover.
roll.
Just been at Bloodstock.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so still
Fantastic. Yeah, yeah. Where's that? Bloodstock? Is that in the United Kingdom?
yeah, that's in
Oh,
it's
yeah.
near Derbyshire.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So
Cool.
big festival that just took place over the weekend, came back yesterday. But yeah, still
Nice.
getting there, getting the head together. Happy to be doing this. Happy to be back in the swing of normal things, basically, and speaking to
Hmm.
you, which I guess we'll start off very, very simply here, really. Tell us a little bit about yourself, in particular, in regards to your musical background and how you got to where you are right now with the Cassini project.
Yeah, so I sort of started the Cassini project as a solo mission after a couple of bands that set up so I kind of got frustrated with musicians like either not being committed enough or they didn't really want to make prog rock. So I just thought, well, you got people like Trent Reznor or what's the guy at a Porcupine Tree, Steve
Oh yeah.
Wilson. So I thought if they can do it, why can't I? So I just decided to sort of start my own one-man band and went ahead with that. I kind of wanted it to be sort of guitar focused, like guitar solos, guitar harmonization, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of almost like a reaction against the garage rock revival at the time, and the sort of media establishment which emphasized kind of simplicity. I was kind of thinking, you know what? No, I'm gonna go completely over the top with intricacy and make it as self-indulgent as possible. Kind of like the Mars Volta. I was listening to Mars Volta a lot around that time, and they'd have like 12-minute songs, and I thought, that's kind of cool because there's a sort of freedom in that you're not constricted by, oh, what does this person think of it or what does that person? It's like they're just expressing themselves without
Yes.
rules, and I think that's what I wanted to do. So yeah.
Is it fair to say then you were basically focusing on making music for yourself, very much so?
Yeah, that's right. Um, yeah, I think most artists would make music for themselves. Some make it with an audience in mind. Like I can't really speak for them, but I'd be willing to bet that artists do that. Like they write for themselves first, and then an audience second. But could be open to correction.
No, no, I think you're
Mm.
absolutely right. The idea is hopefully the what you create will bring the audiences in. But did you
Mm.
have earlier ambitions? What was your early sort of process thoughts in regards to sharing and getting that out to an audience and how they might react to, as you say, an eclectic and wild imagination that you do have?
Well, yeah, I guess what I kind of wanted to do at the time was sort of like it was almost like there was an element of humor to it. Like so some of the songs like in the early days were kind of just written as vehicles for extended guitar solos.
Yeah.
So then bands like Dragon Force were out at the time and it was like, these guys are kind of on my wavelength here because they have maybe like 2 minutes of a song. It's like, right now solo for like 5 minutes. And that was the bit they were waiting to get to, like, oh yeah, we have to do the song, like just get to the solo. So that was kind of my approach at the beginning a little bit. Then I kind of went against guitar solos. I kind of got bored of them, so I thought, okay, I don't want to do guitar solos so much. So I mean, I wasn't really like I was kind of influenced more by like the bands I was listening to. Like if they inspired me, I kind of wanted to emulate them a little bit.
Mhm.
Like Opeth. At the time that was 2008, 2009. Then other bands like sometimes actually I couldn't control what I was writing. So like, I might intend to write like a heavy metal song and then I end up writing a ballad instead. And that's the idea that came to me and that's what would be put out there. So as regards like, yeah, as regards audiences, I wasn't really thinking, okay, what can I do to write for this particular audience in mind? It was more like just, in my own world a bit, like, and that's where it was taking me, whatever I was getting interested in.
And as an audience, I mean, as an audience did sort of come in and people did start to pay attention and listen and find out what you're doing.
Mm.
Have you found it developed or changed the way you're making music over the years?
That's a good question. So like I did a cover version of a theme for anime called Berserk.
Hmm.
It's the theme for this particular character called Guts, and it's a really beautiful piece of music. But that did bring in an audience, and I was kind of thinking like, if yeah, sometimes like you're kind of thinking, is it more worthwhile doing a kind of interpretation of like a theme tune or a piece of anime music, or writing my own material? So there is that consideration to make.
Mm.
um I think like I probably would have reacted to like, yeah, there's some people like would listen to some of my songs, um and like, I mean, I went through a phase around 2012 to 2016 where I was trying to make as much grandiose music as possible, like, big epic songs. And I think at the time one person sort of said, these songs are too long,
Okay.
and she was totally right. Like, I was just thinking, because now it's like when I listen back, it's like, oh god, that's so boring. Like, it just
Oh.
goes on too long. So now it's like, I've gone in the opposite direction a bit. I don't want to write long songs. So yeah, it is true. Like, you get feedback from people, and at the time you might think, oh no, you're totally wrong. You don't get it, man. Like, you know what I mean? And then, it turns out, oh, actually they had a good point there, and then you adapt and you change a little bit. I suppose that's like the craft,
Well, yeah, it's the craft. I
Yeah,
think something, it comes with age, it comes with knowledge, it comes with experience, all of those things put
yeah,
in one, and that's how you get there.
yeah. That's right.
Do you your influences, the stuff you developed from, and the stuff that you particularly wanted to perhaps emulate to begin with before you kind of
Mm,
developed what you were doing, aside
mm,
from sort of the musical side of things, the rock, the metal, the pop, the whatever it might be,
mm,
you find yourself influenced by things like film soundtracks, scores, video game music, and
mm.
things like that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's very good that you mentioned film soundtracks. It's the one thing I actually didn't remember to say. Like, yeah, film soundtracks can sometimes be more inspiring than popular music. Like, I'm just trying to think. Was there there were actual film soundtracks that did influence me.
Mm.
But I'm just trying to think who. I suppose like, I'm getting a mental block here. Danny Elfman a bit. Like, I
Oh
remember I
yeah.
actually did write one. Yeah, I wrote one song, and I actually just realized, oh, that does sound an awful lot like Danny Elfman. You know what I mean? So, unintentionally actually, but that was a subliminal influence. I really like the soundtracks of the Batman films, um, and oh, Elmer Bernstein. He wrote the soundtrack to Ghostbusters and the film Heavy Metal, which is a riot. And have you seen that film, Heavy Metal?
No, I don't think
It,
so. I
it
feel like I would
it's on
remember
net.
it.
It's on Netflix, and it's definitely of its time. It's like an animated kind of film with kind of heavy metal in it, and kind of escapist. It's
Okay.
quite funny. Yeah. Um. So yeah, Elmer Bernstein, and I'm just trying to think who wrote the score to 2001: A Space Odyssey, or was it? Yeah, can't
Hmm.
remember, but
Oh.
maybe Basil Poledouris. He wrote the music to RoboCop and Total Recall. So yeah, those kind of composers did influence me. Yeah, definitely.
You kind of find
Yeah,
yourself leaning more towards science fiction aspects.
yeah. I mean, yeah, science fiction is one of my favorite genres of yeah, literature and film. So
Do you think
yeah, that's what
do you think
there you
now
go.
you're at this sort of stage where all those influences do create this beautiful melting pot where it's less about trying to find an inspiration and more just putting it all together and it comes through quite clearly into what you want to do?
Um, yeah, I think so. Like, I think it's really hard to define the creative process sometimes, because it's like it kind of comes to you like in a subconscious way almost. Like, and
Hmm.
yeah, you're right. Like, there's all these kind of things that are swimming around in the back of your mind you may not be aware of, maybe until later you kind of reflect and think, oh, that sounds like this, you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
whatever. um yeah, so it would be a melting pot. It's just that you may not necessarily be aware of it at the time. Sometimes you are aware of it as well. Like, sometimes you think, okay, I'm into this and I'm also into that over there, and maybe if I combine the two, I'll get something new or something different. So
And I
yeah,
imagine as well, I'd imagine there's almost an element to your style that is you're not necessarily able to define it, but someone that listens to it points it to you and says, "Oh, it kind of reminds me," or "I feels familiar to this sort of thing."
yeah.
And you get that from it.
Yeah, that's kind of funny actually that you mentioned that, because when I was recording my album Blue Ocean Event in the studio, the studio engineer, he's like saying, "Oh, that sounds like Rush," and then he'd say, "Oh, that also sounds like Rush," and that's what Geddy Lee would write on the bass. And the funny thing is, I don't listen to Rush, so I mean, no offense to Rush, like they're a great band and everything, but I just don't listen to their music that much. He also said, "Oh, that sounds like what was interesting as well." He said, "Oh, that sounds like Blink 182, like the rhythm section to one of the songs. I think it's Hell's a Place in Mexico."
Yep.
And that's funny that he mentioned that, because I did grow up in the era of pop punk, which I did not ever listen to at the time when I was a teenager. It's like, oh, I don't listen to that. I listen to Led Zeppelin, like, but that was having an influence on me when I was growing up, and it obviously, like, it's stuck as well. So yeah, I mean, I think sometimes I consciously do, like, I mean, there's it's kind of like everything, so I would sometimes write songs more subconsciously than consciously, but then sometimes I also write songs consciously. So Lightning Tesla is one of the songs off of it, and I kind of wanted that to be like Death. I was listening to Sounds of Perseverance, and I just liked all the complexity and the random curveballs that were being thrown in the songs, like, oh, we're going into a new section now, and why? Because we can. And I wanted to take that approach with Lightning Tesla, so that was a really intentional sort of song where I was deliberately writing it in a particular way. Yeah.
And how much of it has COVID, the last couple of years, the lockdowns, the inability to, well, I guess for the music industry really kind of grinding to a halt, how much of an effect did that have on what you were doing?
I think that was useful, because what happened was I had a lot more time to kind of rehearse for my album, Blue Ocean Event. So and actually I think the last recording session for that I was doing I think it was 3 songs, could have been 4, but that song in particular, Lightning Tesla, is extremely difficult for me to play. So
Okay.
so basically, like, it really helped to have all that time to practice it, because like, it was written kind of to be as technical as it could be as well. So like, I needed the time to do that. So it was beneficial and useful in that way. The other way it was useful, I had some time to write songs, so I wrote some songs which are on another album that I've sort of potentially finished recording. I might add a little bit more to it, but it's more or less sort of done.
Okay.
That album is Grass Messiah. That would be released maybe in a year or two.
Mm.
But COVID, it opened up a lot of time to experiment as well. Like, I mean, with the cover versions that I do on YouTube, I had the freedom of time to do those and to make the videos for them. So yeah, it's just a matter of time.
It's a common thing that
Mm.
kind of comes from bands and artists that we've spoken to over the past few years about having extra time, whether it be to perfect an album or a release or an EP, and just being able to take a breath. It's a rare event, one
Mm.
hopefully never to be repeated. But any benefits that can be taken from it, well, we should scream about them from the top of a mountain.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I think Shakespeare wrote Othello during a plague, I think, when there was a lockdown. I'm not sure if it was Othello, but it was one of the plays. I read that somewhere a couple of years ago. So
If that's the case, that's amazing. That's amazing.
yeah.
Well, Blue Ocean Event, that's the latest release.
Yes.
So talk to us about that. What did the early goals look like? And did it turn out exactly as you wanted it to match up to what the current product is?
Yeah, good question. I sort of intended it to be like the best reflection of my music it could possibly be. So I picked the strongest songs. I kind of like I obviously want to kind of emulate the Bends by Radiohead, even though it sounds nothing like the Bends by Radiohead. I just like the consistency on that album. So I thought, okay, I'll pick my very best songs and kind of put it onto this. And I suppose the theme is kind of related to the title. So the title of the album refers to the melting of the polar ice caps, which causes an entirely blue ocean event, or blue ocean Earth, I should say, and that has catastrophic environmental consequences. That should be happening in the next 10 years. So basically, the album is sort of the lyrical themes are focused on doom, destruction, end of humanity, misanthropy, those kind of things. But there's some like lighter hearted songs, well, not lighthearted, but sort of they're not like saying the whole world's going to end and we're all going to die, like, you know. Um you know, like I think Neurotic Insomniac is essentially about a dream I had of the song, which is how I wrote it. And it was meant to, yeah, the weird thing was like, it was a Portishead song from a parallel universe. I thought, oh, that's someone else's song, until I woke up and realized, no, I wrote it. It's no, because I checked. All right, I checked it, and they did not write it. So, so the idea is like, you know, if you go into a kind of sleep state, maybe your mind's traveling to across the multiverse, and you're getting ideas from different universes where things happen differently. That's the idea. I don't actually believe that, but
fair.
that was the concept. So like, you know, that's not a song about the end of the world, you know. Whereas let's see, Exile is kind of about that. It's like a climate refugee just escaping where they come from, like, and the whole world is collapsing around them and that kind of thing. What else? Let's see, Doom and Gloom, I suppose Fight to the End is about violent revolution and collapse. So, you know,
the end of everything.
These songs are pretty like I wanted to keep that, I wanted it to be intense, you know, like that kind of thing.
But it's real as well. I mean, that's the thing. It's you know, the doom and gloom, as you put it. We only need to look out your window these days. It's all very real.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I suppose musically it was kind of trying to, you know, just what I like to do is kind of, I suppose, like, it's to go back to your question about, like, you know, do I write, do the audience influence how I write? And actually, I think, you know, the lady doth protest too much. Like, yes, they do, in the respect that if I'm writing a song, I like to actually just do something that isn't expected or isn't conforming to what it's the way things should be. You know what I mean? So I might just throw in a completely random section that, you know, conventionally shouldn't be in the song, but I'll do it because you're not supposed to do it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain element of, like, you know, if people are expecting this, I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? I'm going to do the opposite. Sort of thinking back to Lightning Tesla, because that's really what that song is about, just trying to do things that were unexpected throughout the whole thing. Like, there's no real verse, chorus, verse structure in that song at all. There's no vocals, because I thought vocals are kind of popular, so I won't do that.
Yeah.
And if there's the guitar solos, like, you know, oh, so, you know, you one might expect me to play a shreddy solo, but instead I'll just do this really long sustained blues bend, but I'm actually not going to play a blues solo. No, I'm going to start shredding, you know? So it's just trying to continuously throw curveballs, because I find, like, when I was listening to, like, the Mars Volta, or even Hangar 13 by Megadeth, or Hangar 18? Yeah.
18.
What, 13 or 18? I
18.
just got 18. Yeah, it's Hangar 18. Yeah. There's like, you hear the song and then suddenly it just goes into a completely different section with the solo, and it's like, where did that come from? And that's awesome, because it's unexpected. It's not conventional. It's just like, whoa, you know?
Do you think, because you brought it up a couple of times, do you think Lightning Tesla is a great is the best example possibly of not necessarily your best work, but where your imagination, where your head often is at?
Very interesting. Just trying to think of all the songs on that album. Like, let me have a look for my album for a second.
I mean, you've got 12 tracks, so it's a busy one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think Road Wave might be better.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Road Wave, because Road Wave is kind of like Lightning Tesla in the sense that it does have a lot of sections. But I think musically, it's just there's just more to it. It's a little bit more kind of melodic, and yeah, I think it's just a better song. Like, you know, Lightning Test is more like a tech demo almost. No, as well. No. Yeah.
I get what you mean. Yeah. I get what you mean. So is the current plan then for, as we're August 2022, the remainder of 2022, is it just to kind of go back to what you were saying earlier on, perfect and do the little nuances you want on this new record?
Oh, yes. Well, the new record, right? That's an interesting one, because it's a little bit heavier, a little bit deeper, a little bit slower, not as much showing off on this one. So it's similar, but it's also different, because it's more it's more what would be the word, seasoned, I suppose, or you know what I
Okay,
mean. I
okay,
know
well,
what I'm doing a bit more.
yep.
You know what I mean. Because like when I was doing Blue Ocean Event, like
Mm.
I'd been about 15 years since I'd been in the studio, and like it was experimental because the way like my songs are constructed, there's so many layers that I didn't really know how it was going to work initially. So um it did work eventually because I had a process where you could record all these parts really quickly
Mm.
by just memorizing them. So with that in mind, the new album, like, you know, that process was nailed down. So like, yeah, I think that's reflected in the actual recording itself. It just sounds a little bit better using
Okay.
better instruments as well. And yeah. Mm. So I think overall it's a pretty damn good album, like in my opinion. The new one.
I'm glad.
Grass Messiah. But yeah, Blue Ocean Event is also good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you feel so confident in it. That is, it's amazing to hear. I can't wait to hear it. What other
Mm.
goals or plans do you kind of have in the works for the next sort of 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I'd like to. Well, I have this. I want to make some music videos for the new album.
Mhm.
I have some music video ideas, so I'll be collaborating hopefully with a director on a video for one of them. That song is called Cold Blood.
Mhm.
The other thing would be potentially to be playing live. So sort of trying to get a band together and yeah, do some live shows, you know. Because I think live music is cool, even though it's not as popular. Like people are talking about the internet being, you know, your social media accounts being the be all and end all. That might be true, but I still think, you know, what's rock and roll? Rock and roll is like playing a gig, people being there, having a good time, not worrying about your social media metrics. That's not rock and roll, you know. So
No, absolutely, it is.
yeah.
Well, it is always going to be a unique experience. As I said to you at the start, I've just
Mm,
come back from Bloodstock and sharing a field with 20,000 other people in regards to live music. I know the
mm,
importance of it. How
mm.
how 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 is it going getting together a band? Is that something that's started already, or is it something you're going to
Yeah.
be working on?
It's something that's both. So I've sort of started already, but I'm also working on it. It's tricky to get a band together. So hopefully it comes to pass, because if it does, then there'll be gigs, you know, and it'll be awesome touring and such. Yeah.
That will feel like the icing on the cake to what you're currently doing in regards to the music and what you've described coming up from the new album. Alex, we
Mm,
must leave it there. Thank you so
okay.
much for taking the time to do this. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?